They said my son died instantly. That was the first lie. The second lie was the bag of drugs they planted in his pocket. But the truth? The truth was standing right in front of me, wearing a badge and a smirk that made my blood turn to ice. I didn't say a word. I just memorized his face. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. The air in the morgue was cold enough to preserve a body, but it wasn't cold enough to numb the fire starting in my chest. The coroner, a tired-looking man named Dr. Vance, pulled the sheet back slowly. He didn't look at me. He looked at the floor, at the wall, anywhere but at the father about to identify his teenage son. "I'm sorry, Mr. Cross," he mumbled. I looked down. Evan. My boy was 17. He had messy brown hair that he refused to comb, and he had a scar on his chin from falling off his bike when he was 6. He was supposed to graduate next spring. He was supposed to go to college. He was supposed to outlive me. Now he was gray. I counted the holes. I didn't mean to, but my training kicked in. It was a reflex I thought I had buried 15 years ago. 1 in the shoulder, 2 in the chest. Defensive wounds on his forearms. He had his hands up. He was surrendering. 13, I said. My voice sounded like gravel grinding together. They shot him 13 times. The report says he was armed, a voice said from the doorway. Resisting arrest. Returning fire. I didn't turn around immediately. I knew that voice. 10 years ago, I had bought the man who owned that voice a beer. I had invited him to my barbecues. I pulled the sheet back up over Evan's face. I placed my hand on his forehead for a second, just a second, promising him something I couldn't say out loud. Then I turned. Captain Julian Vance stood in the doorway of the morgue. His uniform was crisp, pressed perfectly. His gold badge caught the fluorescent light. He wasn't alone. 2 patrol officers stood behind him, hands resting casually near their holsters, like they were expecting trouble from a grieving father. "Mason," Julian said, stepping forward. He put on a face of practiced sympathy. It was a mask I had seen politicians wear. "I can't tell you how sorry I am. When my guys called it in, when I realized it was Evan, it broke me." "He was armed?" I asked. I kept my hands at my sides. Relaxed. "Open." "A 9mm, Julian said, shaking his head. "Unregistered. And a bag of fentanyl in his backpack. We think he was running product for the gangs on the south side. It's a tragedy, Mason. These kids, they get mixed up in things." Evan didn't even drink soda because he cared about his track team performance. He was a math geek. He spent his Friday nights playing video games with his headphones on. "Show me the gun," I said. Julian sighed, a long, exaggerated sound of patience. "It's in evidence. You know the protocol. Look, I know you're hurting. I know you want to blame someone. But my officers did what they had to do. They have families to go home to. They have families." 13 times, I repeated. "He was 140 pounds, Julian. He was a child." Julian walked closer. He placed a hand on my shoulder. His grip was firm, dominant. It was a power move. "He was a threat," Julian whispered, leaning in close so the officers behind him couldn't hear. "And honestly, Mason, maybe this is for the best. With the path he was on, jail would have been worse." Then he did it. It lasted maybe half a second. The corner of his mouth twitched up. His eyes didn't look sad. They looked victorious. It was a smirk, a tiny, arrogant smile that said, "I own this town, and there is nothing you can do about it." He thought I was just Mason Cross, the quiet guy who worked construction and lived in a cabin 3 miles out of town. He thought I was a washed-up ex-husband who couldn't even keep his wife. He had no idea who I really was before I retired. "Go home, Mason," Julian said, patting my shoulder again. "Arrangements need to be made. Lila is at the station filling out paperwork. She's a wreck. She needs you to be strong, not paranoid." Lila, my ex-wife. She was engaged to him now. That was the final twist of the knife. She was probably sitting in his office, drinking his coffee, believing every lie he fed her. "I'll go," I said. I walked past him. As I passed the 2 patrol officers, One of them, a young guy with a buzz cut, Officer Grant, his name tag read, snickered. It was quiet, but in the silence of the morgue, it sounded like a gunshot. They felt safe. They felt untouchable. They had the badges, the guns, the judge, and the story. They had rewritten my son's life into a criminal record in less than 6 hours. I walked out into the parking lot. The sun was shining. It felt offensive. The world should have been dark. I got into my truck, an old rusted Ford that fit the persona I had built for myself. I sat there for a long time, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I didn't cry. I wanted to. I wanted to scream until my throat bled. But the tears wouldn't come. Instead, a cold calm washed over me. It was a familiar feeling. It was the feeling of a mission green light. I reached under the passenger seat and pulled out a burner phone I had bought at a gas station on the way over. I dialed a number I hadn't called in 12 years. I didn't even know if it was still active. It rang once, twice. Status, a voice answered. No hello, no names. Just the voice of a man who slept with a knife under his pillow. Hunter, I said. Mason. The voice shifted, dropping the robotic tone. It's been a decade, boss. I thought you were dead. Or happy. I was, I said. I looked back at the police station. I could see Julian standing in the window of his second-floor office, watching my truck. He was on the phone, probably laughing. I need the team. What kind of job? Hunter asked. Extraction? Intel. War, I said. Where? Home, I replied. They killed my son, Hunter. Dirty cops. The captain. They covered it up. There was silence on the line. A heavy, dangerous silence. When Hunter spoke again, I could hear the smile in his voice. Not a happy smile, but the smile of a wolf seeing a wounded deer. Give us 24 hours, Hunter said. We're bringing the hardware. I hung up. I looked up at the window again. Julian was still there. Smile while you can, Julian, I thought. You just declared war on a ghost. I started the engine. The smell of bleach was overpowering. It burned the inside of my nose, mixing with the damp, metallic scent of the city alleyway. I had come back to find answers, maybe a shell casing they missed, or my son's backpack. Instead, I found Officer Grant pouring a gallon of industrial cleaner over the bloodstains on the concrete. He wasn't cleaning a crime scene. He was erasing a life. You missed a spot, I said, my voice dangerously calm. Officer Grant stopped pouring. He was young, maybe 25, with the kind of arrogant posture that only comes from having a badge and no conscience. He set the empty jug down slowly and rested his hand on his service weapon. This is a restricted area, Mr. Cross, Grant said, not even bothering to look up at first. Official police business. Since when do police scrub a crime scene 2 hours after a shooting? I asked, stepping closer to the yellow tape. Usually, you leave that for the city cleanup crew. Unless you're hiding something. Unless the ballistics won't match the story you told. Grant finally looked at me. He stepped over the police tape, walking right up to the line until he was invading my personal space. He smelled like mint gum and gunpowder. Let me give you some advice, old man, he whispered, a smirk playing on his lips. Go home. Bury your junkie kid. Cry your tears. If you keep sniffing around here, we might find something in your truck, too. Maybe a kilo of cocaine? Maybe an illegal firearm? We can make it look like a family business real quick. My hand twitched at my side. I knew 17 ways to disable him before he could even unsnap the retention strap on his holster. I could crush his windpipe. I could break his wrist and turn that gun on him before his heart beat twice. But not yet. If I killed him now, right here in the street, I was just a cop killer. I became the villain they wanted me to be. I needed them to rot first. I needed to expose them. You're making a mistake, Grant, I said softly. He laughed, a sharp, barking sound. The only mistake was your son thinking he could record us. Now get lost. Record us. The words hung in the air like smoke. Grant had just slipped up. In his arrogance, he admitted Evan wasn't holding a gun. He was holding a phone. He was recording something they didn't want seen. I turned and walked away without another word, feeling Grant's eyes boring into my back. My heart was hammering, not from fear, but from a cold, focused rage. I needed allies. I needed the one person who should have been as angry as I was. I drove straight to Lila's house. It was the house we used to share, a beautiful two-story colonial in the suburbs. White picket fence, manicured lawn, the American dream. Now, Captain Julian's sleek black Charger was parked in the driveway, right where my truck used to sit. It was a territory marker. I banged on the door, ignoring the doorbell. Lila answered after a moment. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red and swollen, her blonde hair messy. She was wearing one of Julian's oversized police hoodies. That sight made my stomach turn. "Mason," she said, her voice trembling. "What are you doing here?" "Julian called. He said you were at the scene. He said you were acting unstable." "Unstable?" I pushed past her into the hallway. "They killed our son, Lila. I just watched one of Julian's goons bleaching the alley. They're covering it up." Grant admitted Evan was recording them. "Stop it," she screamed. She backed away from me, covering her ears like a child. "Just stop. Julian told me everything. He sat me down and showed me the toxicology report. Mason, Evan was on fentanyl. He was dealing." "There is no toxicology report," I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls of the house I used to pay for. "He's been dead for 4 hours. Labs take days, Lila. Julian typed that up on his laptop to shut you up." She shook her head, fresh tears streaming down her face. "Why can't you just accept it? Why do you always have to fight everyone? Evan is gone. Julian is trying to protect his reputation so we can bury him with dignity. He's pulling strings to keep the drug charges out of the papers because he loves us." I stared at her. The woman I had loved for 20 years. The mother of my child. She wasn't just grieving. She was brainwashed. She was sleeping with the enemy, and she was grateful for the protection he offered from a threat he created. "He didn't protect Evan," I said, my voice breaking. "He executed him, and you're thanking him for it." "Get out," she whispered. Then louder, her voice shrill. "Get out. Julian will be back any minute. If he sees you here, he'll arrest you. He said you're dangerous." "I am dangerous," I told her, looking her dead in the eyes. "But not to you." I looked at a framed photo on the hallway table. It was the three of us, me, Lila, and Evan, from a vacation 5 years ago. We looked happy, ignorant. I grabbed the photo, smashed the glass against the corner of the table, and took the picture, leaving the broken frame. "I'm taking this," I said. "You don't deserve to look at him." I left her crying in the hallway. I didn't look back. I couldn't save her. Not yet. I drove out of the suburbs, past the city limits, and up the winding dirt road to my cabin. It was dark now. The woods were silent, a stark contrast to the noise in my head. I parked the truck and went inside. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't need them. I knew every inch of this place. I walked to the heavy rug in the center of the living room and kicked it aside. Underneath was a floorboard that looked like all the others, but when I pressed a hidden release near the fireplace, it popped up. I pulled open the trapdoor. The smell of gun oil and cold steel drifted up. It was the sin of my past. I climbed down the ladder into the bunker I had built when I first retired. I hadn't been down here in years. I thought I was done with war. I thought I had left the violence in the desert. But war follows you. It waits for you to get comfortable, and then it kicks your door down. I walked to the weapon rack. My old gear was there, covered in a thin layer of dust, but meticulously maintained. My tactical vest, my ceramic plates, my suppressed Sig Sauer, and something else, a hard drive containing the encrypted files of every mission my team had ever run. Leverage. I started cleaning the weapons. I disassembled the rifle, oiling the bolt, checking the firing pin. The repetitive motion calmed me. It focused me. Click-clack. The sound of the slide racking back was the only noise in the room. Then I heard it. The sound of tires crunching on gravel outside. Heavy tires. Multiple vehicles. I didn't panic. I checked the monitor for the external cameras I had rigged years ago. 3 black SUVs were pulling up to my cabin. No headlights. They were moving in stealth mode. It wasn't the police. Julian wouldn't send a SWAT team this far out without a warrant, and he wouldn't do it quietly. I zoomed in on the lead vehicle. The door opened, and a massive figure stepped out. He was wearing civilian clothes, jeans and a tactical jacket, but he moved like a predator. Hunter. And behind him, two others stepping out of the shadows. Logan and Ryder. They hadn't just come alone. They had brought the war with them. I climbed up the ladder and opened the front door. Hunter stood by the hood of his SUV, crossing his massive arms. He looked older, grayer, but his eyes were the same. Cold, dead, loyal. "You look like hell, boss," Hunter said, his voice deep and gravelly. "I feel like hell," I replied. Hunter nodded at the trunk of his car. "We brought the toys, and we brought the intel. You were right about the captain. He's not just dirty, Mason. He's filthy." "How bad?" I asked. "Bad enough that we're going to need a bigger shovel," Ryder said, stepping into the light. He was holding a thermal scope, scanning the tree line. "We picked up chatter on the police band. They have a hit out on you, Mason. Armed and dangerous suspect. Shoot on sight." I looked at my team. 3 men who had toppled dictatorships. 3 men who would die for me. "Let them come," I said. "I want them to come." Hunter grinned. "So what's the play? Do we burn the precinct down tonight?" "No," I said, gripping the photo of Evan in my pocket. "Burning it down is too easy. We're going to dismantle them, piece by piece, bone by bone. I want them to feel what my son felt. Fear." "Copy that," Hunter said. "Rules of engagement?" I looked toward the city lights glowing in the distance. "None," I said. "No prisoners. No mercy. My cabin was compromised. If Captain Julian Vance had put a shoot-on-sight order out, it was only a matter of time before a patrol car rolled up that long dirt driveway. We needed a ghost ship, somewhere we could operate without existing, somewhere off the grid where their digital eyes couldn't see us planning their destruction. "Pack it up," I said, sweeping my gaze over the men who had just arrived to save my life. "We're moving to the mill." Hunter looked up from the trunk of his SUV, where he was organizing blocks of sea for like they were groceries. "The old textile place. I thought that burned down in '08. "The East Wing did," I said. "The basement is intact, and it's shielded from thermal imaging. I bought it through a shell corp 5 years ago for a rainy day." "Well," Logan said, slamming a magazine into his rifle with a metallic crunch that echoed in the quiet woods. "It's pouring." We moved in a convoy, lights off, using night vision goggles to navigate the winding back roads. We slipped through the shadows of the town that had killed my son, invisible to the patrol cars speeding down the highway with their sirens wailing, looking for a grieving father they thought was helpless. Every siren wail felt like a taunt, a reminder of the power Julian thought he held over me. The mill was a rotting skeleton of brick and steel on the edge of the river. To the world, it was a condemned hazard, a relic of industry that the town had forgotten. To us, it was a fortress. We drove the SUVs directly into the loading bay, the tires crunching over broken glass and debris, and pulled the heavy steel doors shut behind us. The darkness inside was absolute until Ryder flipped a breaker. A low hum vibrated through the floor as the backup generator kicked in, powering up the halogen work lights I had installed years ago. The basement was cold, damp, and perfect. It smelled of rust and river water, a stark contrast to the sterile, bleach-scented lies of the police station. Ryder, our tech specialist, didn't waste a second. He opened 3 hard Pelican cases and started assembling his server rack on a rusted metal table. Within 20 minutes, the hum of cooling fans filled the concrete room. Multiple monitors flickered to life, casting a blue, ghostly glow over his scarred face. "I'm in," Ryder said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "City grid, traffic cams, and bingo, I've got a backdoor into the precinct's internal comms. They're using an encrypted channel, but it's cheap software. I'll crack it in 10 minutes. I stood in front of a cracked whiteboard I had dragged from the corner. I uncapped a dry erase marker. The smell of the ink made me nauseous, reminding me of the briefing rooms in Kandahar where we planned missions that never existed, but I pushed the memory down. I wrote one name in the center, Captain Julian Vance. Target package, I said. The room went silent. Hunter, Logan, and Ryder turned to me. They were soldiers, but they were also men. They saw the pain in my eyes, the exhaustion of a father who had seen his son on a metal slab. Julian Vance. I began, tapping the name. Police captain. Public hero. He runs the 4th precinct like a cartel. He killed Evan to cover up a narcotics ring he's operating out of the evidence locker. I drew 3 lines coming off Julian's name. Officer Grant. The shooter. Arrogant, sloppy. He's the muscle. He's the one who pulled the trigger. Sergeant Miller. I wrote next. Watch commander. He signs off on the false reports. He's the admin. He buried the paperwork. And the money man, I said, tapping the empty space on the board. We don't know who handles the laundering yet. But Julian isn't smart enough to wash millions by himself. Someone else is pulling the strings on the finance side. Hunter stepped forward, crossing his massive arms. So we snatched Julian. Put him in a chair. Make him talk. No, I said firmly. If we take Julian now, the department frames me as a terrorist. They'll say I snapped and kidnapped a police captain. We need proof. We need to burn his reputation before we burn him. Logan was going through a crate of surveillance gear. I can wire the precinct. Audio and video. If they talk about it, we'll hear it. Do it, I said. I want eyes in his office. I want eyes in his car. I want to know what he eats for breakfast. I want to know where he sleeps. Ryder suddenly spun his chair around. Boss, you need to see this. I walked over to the monitors. Ryder had pulled up the city's traffic camera feed from 4 hours ago, the time of the shooting. I scrubbed the timestamps so the system wouldn't flag the retrieval, Ryder said. Look at this. On the screen, grainy footage showed the alleyway behind the convenience store. It showed Evan walking. He wasn't running. He wasn't holding a gun. He was holding his phone up, filming a patrol car parked illegally by the loading dock. Then, the patrol car door opened. Officer Grant stepped out. He didn't shout a warning. He didn't identify himself. He just raised his weapon. I watched my son die in low-resolution black and white. I watched him fall. I watched Grant walk over and kick the phone out of his hand. I watched Julian's car pull up 2 minutes later. I watched Julian get out, look at the body, and pat Grant on the back like he had just scored a touchdown. The room was so quiet I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. It was a roar, a deafening sound of pure, unadulterated hatred. Hunter put a hand on my shoulder. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The grip was tight, promising violence. Save it, I whispered. Save that video. That's our ace. I can leak this to the news right now, Ryder said, his finger hovering over the enter key. Send it to every station in the state. No, I said. Not yet. If we leak it now, they'll claim it's doctored. They'll spin it. We need the rest of the network. We need the judge. We need the money. If we strike now, we only get the pawns. I want the king. I turned back to the whiteboard. I looked at Julian's name. We start tonight, I said. Phase 1 is psychological. I want them to know they're being watched. I want them to stop sleeping. What's the move? Logan asked. Grant, I said. He's the weak link. He's arrogant. He thinks he got away with it. Let's remind him that ghosts exist. Hunter grinned, and it was a terrifying sight. He reached into a bag and pulled out a signal jammer and a set of lockpicks. I'll take the recon team, Hunter said. We'll pay Officer Grant a visit. Not a touch. Just a presence. Go, I said. As they loaded up, I sat down in the flickering light of the monitors. I watched the video of Evan again. And again, I memorized every frame. I let the hate harden into something useful. I wasn't just a father anymore. I was a commanding officer. And the enemy was inside the wire. The rain had started to fall harder, drumming against the metal roof of the mill, masking the sound of our convoy moving out. We weren't going to the precinct yet. That was a fortress. We were going for the soft underbelly of the beast, Captain Julian's private residence. Approaching target, Hunter's voice crackled over the comms earpiece. 2 tangos inside. Lights are on in the living room and kitchen. I sat in the back of the surveillance van, parked 3 blocks away in a dark alley. Ryder was next to me, his face illuminated by the bank of monitors we had rigged up. We were tapping into the smart home system Julian had installed. The irony was bitter. He had bought the most expensive security system on the market, thinking it would keep criminals out. But he forgot that the men who built the system always leave a back door. "I have visual," Ryder whispered, tapping a key. The monitor flickered, then stabilized. We were looking through the camera of Julian's smart fridge. It was a distorted, fisheye view of his kitchen, but it was clear enough. And there she was, Lila. She was sitting at the island counter, swirling a glass of red wine. She looked older than she had this morning. Her shoulders were slumped, her eyes vacant. She wasn't the vibrant woman I had married. She looked like a ghost haunting a house that didn't belong to her. "Mason," Ryder said softly, "you don't have to watch this part." "I have to," I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were clenched into fists. "I need to know if she's a victim or an accomplice." The back door on the screen opened. Julian walked in. He was out of uniform, wearing a polo shirt and slacks, looking like the perfect suburban husband. He walked over to Lila and kissed the top of her head. She didn't lean into it. She just froze. "Did you eat?" Julian asked. The audio from the fridge microphone was crisp. "I'm not hungry," Lila replied. Her voice was thin. "I can't stop thinking about him, Julian. Mason came by today. He looked broken." Julian sighed, opening the fridge, blocking the camera for a second before grabbing a bottle of water. "Mason is dangerous, Lila. I told you. He's grieving, and he's looking for someone to blame. I have a patrol car sitting outside his cabin right now. If he shows his face, we'll bring him in for a psych evaluation. For his own good." "He said there was no toxicology report," Lila said, turning to look at him. "He said you typed it up." I held my breath. Julian slammed the water bottle down on the counter. The sound spiked on our audio meter. "Mason is paranoid," Julian snapped. "He's an ex-military burnout who thinks everything is a conspiracy. I am the captain of this precinct, Lila. Do you think I would risk my career, my life, our life, to frame a kid? Evan made mistakes. Bad ones. I am cleaning up his mess so you don't have to live with the shame." "Target is agitated," Hunter whispered over the comms. "I'm at the 2nd floor window. Bedroom. Moving to plant the bugs." "Copy," I said. "Stay frosty. He's on edge." On the screen, Lila shrank back. "I'm sorry. I miss him." "I know," Julian said, softening his tone. It was a manipulation tactic I had seen interrogators use 1,000 times. Break them, then offer comfort. "I miss him too. But we have to move forward. The funeral is on Thursday. The judge is coming. We need to be presentable." "The judge?" "Ryder," I said. "Flag that. Why is a state judge coming to the funeral of a kid who supposedly died dealing drugs?" "Flagged," Ryder said. Julian's phone rang. He pulled it out of his pocket and looked at the screen. His face changed instantly. The caring husband mask vanished, replaced by the cold, calculating look I had seen in the morgue. "I have to take this," Julian said. He walked out of the kitchen, heading toward his study. "Hunter," I barked. "He's moving to the study. Do not get made." "I'm already in the vents," Hunter replied. Deploying the laser mic. A new audio feed popped up on our screen. It was muffled at first, then clear as Hunter aimed the laser at the glass of the study window from the outside. "Yeah," Julian said. "No, it's handled. Grant is an idiot, but he's loyal." I know. The shipment is already at the docks. Look, the kid was recording the transaction, okay? We didn't have a choice." "Yes, the ledger is safe. It's on the encrypted drive. Don't worry about Mason Cross. He's a nobody." I looked at Ryder. He was already typing furiously. "He mentioned a ledger," Ryder said, his eyes scanning lines of code. "And a shipment. Mason, this isn't just about drugs. Transaction implies something bigger. Trace the call. I ordered. Burner to burner. Ryder shook his head. Untraceable. But he mentioned the drive. If he's following standard corrupt cop protocol, he keeps his insurance policy close. Hunter, I said. Is there a safe in the bedroom? Negative, Hunter whispered. But I'm looking at the study through the vent. He's sitting at his desk. He just unlocked the bottom drawer with a biometric print. He's checking a silver flash drive. That's it, I said. That's the life insurance. Do I take it? Hunter asked. I can drop him right now. Clean shot. No, I said, though every fiber of my being wanted to say yes. If we take the drive now, he knows he's compromised. He'll burn the evidence at the docks. We need to know what's in that shipment. We need to catch them moving it. Hunter exhaled slowly. Copy. Exfiltrating now. I planted audio in the bedroom, study, and living room. You'll hear him snore. I watched Julian on the screen one last time. He put the drive back, locked the drawer, and stared out the window into the darkness. He was looking right at where Hunter was hiding, but he didn't see him. He didn't see the Reaper standing in his garden. You're a nobody, Mason Cross. I repeated his words to myself. I leaned back in the van, the adrenaline starting to crash, leaving me with the cold ache of grief. Ryder, I said. Part 1 is done. We have eyes and ears. Now we start Part 2. Psychological warfare? Ryder asked, cracking his knuckles. Officer Grant, I said. He's the weak link. Julian said it himself. Grant is an idiot. We're going to make him think he's losing his mind. I want to know his schedule. I want to know his fears. I want to know what radio station he listens to. Ryder brought up Officer Grant's file. He's on the night shift tomorrow. Patrol car 404. He lives alone in a studio apartment downtown. Has a history of anxiety attacks. Perfect, I said. Prepare the localized broadcast override. And get the drone ready. What are we going to do? Ryder asked. We're going to haunt him, I said. We're going to make him believe that Evan is still watching him. The convoy started up. We drove back to the mill in silence, but the air in the van had changed. We weren't just reacting anymore. We had the initiative. Julian thought he was playing chess, but he didn't realize we had already set fire to the board. Grant's patrol car showed up on Ryder's screen like a little moving Unit 404, circling the downtown blocks the way a shark circles open water. Ryder had built a full profile in under an hour. Not just the official stuff, badge number, address, shift schedule, but the human stuff too. What time Grant stopped for coffee. Which gas station he used when he thought nobody was watching. Which late-night diner he hit after a hard shift, pretending he was a man with a conscience. He's predictable, Ryder said, zooming in on a traffic cam feed. Same route, same stops, same arrogance. Hunter was on the other side of the table, laying out equipment with the calm precision of a surgeon. No show, no drama, just tools. Logan kept watch near the loading bay, rifle slung, eyes scanning the cracks between the steel doors like the world might leak in. I stared at Grant stop moving through the city. That, I said quietly, is the man who shot my son 13 times. No one answered right away. They didn't need to. Ryder rotated one of the monitors toward me. We can do what you asked. Localized broadcast override. We can hijack his car's audio for short bursts. 10 seconds at a time. Enough to rattle him. Not too much, I said. If it turns into a circus, he goes to Julian and Julian locks him down. We need Grant alone. Hunter nodded once. A scare, not a stampede. I watched Grant stop at a convenience store. Same brand sign as the one where Evan died, but a different location. Still, it felt like the city was mocking me. Grant walked out on camera with a coffee in one hand and his radio in the other, laughing at something his partner said over the air. He wasn't grieving. He wasn't haunted. He was living. My jaw tightened so hard it hurt. Phase 1, I said. Make him feel watched. Ryder tapped a few keys. Drone is airborne. A second window popped up, a high-angle view from above Grant's patrol car. City lights. Wet streets. The reflection of red traffic signals smeared across the asphalt like fresh paint. Grant got back in his unit. He didn't look up. Of course he didn't. People like him didn't believe in consequences. Hunter's voice came through the comms. He wasn't at the mill anymore. He was out there, close. Visual on Grant's unit. I'm 3 rooftops over. If anything goes sideways, I can intervene without contact. No contact, I reminded him. I know, Hunter said. Just saying I'm there. Grant pulled away from the curb and rolled through a slow intersection. He turned the corner, and that's when Ryder made the first move. Small, clean, almost invisible. Grant's dashboard screen flickered. Just once. Then it went normal again. Grant glanced down, irritated, then kept driving. Ryder leaned closer to his keyboard, almost enjoying the craft of it. I'm not taking control. Just injecting noise. Tiny errors. Like a ghost tapping the glass. Grant's dot kept moving. 2 blocks later, Grant's radio hissed. Not the normal static. This was sharp, sudden. A high-pitched spike that made Grant flinch and slap the side of the unit center console. What the? Grant muttered, and the mic in his car picked it up. He looked around like someone might be hiding in the back seat. Logan, watching another feed, said, he's on edge already. He should be, I replied. Ryder's fingers hovered. Audio injection ready. Not yet, I said. Let him settle. Then hit him when he's alone. Grant drove toward the River District. Industrial lots, closed warehouses, wide streets with barely any traffic. It was the kind of place cops liked because there were no witnesses. The kind of place dirty cops preferred because the dark made people look guilty. He parked under a broken streetlight and stepped out to pee behind his open driver's side door, like the city belonged to him. Ryder looked at me. Now. I held my breath, then nodded once. Ryder pressed a key. Grant's patrol car's speakers crackled. Then a voice played. Calm, low, and razor clear. You missed a spot. Grant froze so hard it looked like someone pressed pause. He whipped around, scanning the street, one hand going to his belt. Who's there? Silence. Just rain and distant highway noise. Grant stepped closer to his patrol car, eyes narrowed, trying to make logic out of something that didn't fit inside his brain. Dispatch, you copy? Somebody messing with my unit. The radio stayed quiet. Ryder had blocked outgoing. Grant grabbed his door handle, yanked it open, leaned in, staring at the dash like it might explain itself. Then Ryder injected the second piece. A short audio clip. 10 seconds. The sound of a kid breathing hard. A scuffle. A phone dropping. And Grant's own voice, recorded from the alley feed Ryder pulled earlier. Cold, careless, confident. The only mistake was your son thinking he could record us. Grant stumbled back from the car like the speakers had punched him in the chest. No, he whispered. No, no. That's not. He looked up at the dark sky, rain hitting his face, and for the first time since Evan died, I saw something that looked like fear. Grant got in the car fast and slammed the door. He tried the radio again. Dispatch. Something's wrong with my... Nothing. He punched the steering wheel. Come on, Ryder muttered. He's going to call Julian on his personal cell. Let him, I said. We want him to run to Julian. We want Julian to feel the heat through Grant. Grant's hands shook as he pulled his phone out and dialed. Hunter's voice came in. I can see his screen from here. He's calling Captain. Julian answered on the second ring. Grant. Grant didn't waste time. Cap, somebody's messing with my unit. My speakers, my radio, it played something. It played my voice. Julian's tone shifted. Slow down. What did you hear? Grant swallowed. That alley. The kid. The one we. He stopped himself, breathing hard. It played the audio. Like somebody has it. Julian went quiet for half a beat too long. Then Julian said, very calmly, You're tired. You're on nights. You've been drinking too much coffee. Go park at the precinct, and I'll have Tech look at it. Grant's voice rose. No, Cap, you don't get it. It was real. It was my voice. Someone has evidence. Julian's calm cracked, just slightly. Grant, listen to me. You are fine. You did what you were told. You are protected, as long as you don't spiral. Do you understand me? Grant hesitated. Cap, what if the dad? What if Mason Cross is? Julian cut him off sharp. Mason Cross is a nobody. He's alone. He's grieving. He doesn't have the reach for this. So if you're hearing things, it's because you're weak right now. And weak people make mistakes. Grant went silent, humiliated. Julian softened again, like a hand around a throat that pretended it was a hug. Go to the precinct. I'll meet you there. Grant whispered. Okay. He hung up. Ryder looked at me. You heard that shift, right? Julian didn't ask if Grant was safe. He asked what Grant heard. Because Julian knows what exists, I said. Julian knows what can destroy him. Grant started driving fast, taking turns too hard, tires skidding on wet roads. Panic makes people sloppy. Panic makes people talk. Hunter's voice dropped lower. Grant just ran a red light. He's spiraling. Good, Logan said, still watching the door. Spiral him into a confession. I stared at the monitor, my son's face in my mind, and felt the urge to push harder. To break Grant completely. But this wasn't a war zone. This was home. And if I crossed a certain line, I wouldn't come back from it. We stop here, I said. Ryder blinked. Now. We gave him the first crack, I answered. Let it spread. Let him sweat. Let him wonder which breath will be his last quiet one. Hunter came back instantly, approving. Smart. Fear is better when it has room to grow. Grant raced toward the precinct. Ryder saved the call recording and tagged it with timestamps. We have Julian on tape saying you did what you were told. Not a confession, but it's a thread. I leaned forward, voice low. Next time, we pull that thread until the whole uniform falls apart. And as Grant disappeared into the bright perimeter lights of the police station, Ryder's screen flashed a new notification. An incoming message from an unknown number, routed through a relay that shouldn't exist. Ryder's eyes narrowed. That's weird. He opened it. It was a single line. Stop digging or she pays. No name. No context. Just a threat. My stomach dropped. She? Hunter asked through the comms, instantly alert. I didn't answer right away, because only one person came to mind. Lila. And suddenly, the war didn't feel like it was aimed only at me anymore. Ryder didn't move for a second after reading the message, like his brain was checking if it was real. Hunter's voice came tight through the comms. Say it again. What did it say? Ryder cleared his throat. It says, stop digging or she pays. One line. Unknown relay. Logan stepped closer, eyes hard. That's not random. That's somebody watching us watch them. My mouth went dry. I didn't like how fast my mind landed on one name. Lila. I hated that my first instinct wasn't comfort. It was suspicion. But this is what Julian had done. He'd turned my grief into a weapon that cut in every direction. Pull up every camera near her house, I told Ryder. Right now. Ryder's fingers moved fast. On it, 4 feeds popped up, Street View, a neighbor's driveway cam, a doorbell cam across the street, and a traffic cam at the corner. Lila's house looked calm. Too calm. Then I saw it. A dark sedan, parked half a block down, engine running. No lights. Someone inside. That car wasn't there earlier, Ryder said, zooming in. Hunter didn't wait for permission. I can get eyes on it. No, I said instantly. Not yet. If we spook them, they grab her. We need to know what she pays means. Money? Silence? Or something worse? Ryder's screen pinged again. Another incoming packet, but this one wasn't a message. It was a data burst. Ryder frowned. They're pushing something at us. What? I asked. He opened it carefully, routing it through a sandbox. A folder appeared with one file inside. A PDF. Ryder clicked, and my blood turned cold. It wasn't a police report. It wasn't a threat letter. It was a court document. At the top, sealed order, evidence transfer authorization. Below that, a signature line. Judge Quentin Hale. I said the name out loud before I could stop myself. Quentin. Ryder stared at me. You know him? I swallowed. He's Lila's father. The room went silent in a way that felt heavier than grief. Hunter's breathing was the only sound in my earpiece. Logan spoke first. Your ex-wife's dad is a judge? State level, I said, voice low. The kind who shakes hands at charity events. The kind who smiles for cameras. The sealed order listed dates, evidence item numbers, and a destination code I didn't recognize. But the language was clear. Certain seized property was being released from police custody under judicial authorization, quietly, legally, and fast. Ryder highlighted a line. This is signed 2 days before Evan was shot. 2 days. My son didn't die because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He died because someone with power pre-wrote the permission slip for the crime. I leaned over Ryder's shoulder, scanning the item list. Most of it looked like normal evidence. Cash, phones, jewelry, until one line punched through the noise. Drive, portable, encrypted, silver. The flash drive, I whispered. Julian had it in his desk. Hunter's voice came sharp. So the judge is part of the pipeline. He's laundering evidence out through court orders. Ryder nodded, eyes wide. And that message, she pays, could mean Lila is the pressure point. They're using her to keep you quiet. I stared at the feed of Lila's house again. The dark sedan still sat there. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, something worse. Disgust. Because part of me wanted to storm over there and drag the truth out of her, and another part of me wanted to protect her like she still belonged to me. Bring up Julian's call logs from tonight, I told Ryder. Not the burner. His personal phone patterns. Anything that matches a judge's schedule. Ryder pulled up the bedroom audio feed Hunter had planted. Static, then faint room noise. A faucet. A cabinet door. Julian's voice came through, calmer than before. I told you it's contained. A second voice answered. Older, measured, like a man who never had to raise it. Contained isn't enough, the voice said. I want him broken. My spine stiffened. Julian replied, he's alone. He's nothing. But he's stirring things up. The older voice. Then you should have buried him with the boy. Julian exhaled. That's messy. The town will ask questions. The older voice didn't care. Questions can be managed. Scandals can be managed. But panic cannot. Ryder mouthed the words, then typed fast. He isolated the vocal frequency, ran it through a comparison filter using public courtroom audio clips. He looked up slowly. It's him. My throat tightened. Quentin. Ryder nodded once. Judge Quentin Hale. I couldn't breathe for a second. All this time, I'd pictured Julian as the center of the rot. But Julian was just the uniform on the outside. The real power wore a robe and used laws like knives. Logan spoke carefully. What about Lila? Did she know? I didn't want to answer, because saying it made it real. But then Ryder clicked into another tab. Property records, bank transfers, a scholarship account Evan never used. A deposit, large and clean, made last month into an account tied to Lila. Memo line, family support. I felt something inside me crack, quiet and final. Lila hadn't just been lied to. She'd been paid. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. Yeah. A woman's voice, steady but tense. Mason Cross. Yes. This is Daphne Pierce, she said. I'm an attorney. I can't explain how I got this number, but listen carefully. Your son tried to give me something before he died. My heart slammed. What did he give you? A pause. Then, a copy. And a name. Judge Quentin Hale. The lights in the mill seemed to dim, even though nothing changed. Daphne's voice dropped. They're outside my office right now. If I don't walk out in 10 seconds, I think they're coming in. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the concrete. Daphne, I said, forcing calm into my voice, do not open that door. Her breathing hitched. Then what do I do? And before I could answer, I heard it, muffled through her phone. A knock. Not polite. Authority. Daphne, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Look for a second exit. Back stairwell, fire door, anything. I'm on the 3rd floor, she whispered. One main door? One window. That's it. The knock came again, harder. The kind of knock that doesn't ask. A man's voice pushed through the door. Miss Pierce. Open up. We just want to talk. Daphne's breathing turned shallow. That's not talk. That's police tone. Don't say a word to them, I warned. Put me on speaker and set your phone down near the door. Then step back, quiet. I heard her move fast, heels clicking once, then stopping. The phone landed on something wooden. The sound changed, like it was facing the room. Ryder leaned into my shoulder, listening, eyes locked on his screen. I can pull her office layout. Give me 10 seconds. Logan was already moving, throwing on a jacket and checking a small medical kit like we were heading into a storm. Hunter didn't speak. He just grabbed keys, a suppressed sidearm, and nodded at me once. A question in his eyes. Are we doing this clean? We had to. The door rattled. Something scraped metal against the frame. Daphne whispered, barely audible. They're trying to pop the lock. I spoke louder so the men on the other side could hear through her speaker. Daphne, don't open it. Tell them you're on the phone with your client. A beat. Daphne raised her voice, shaky but controlled. I'm on a call. If you need something, come back with a warrant. The voice turned cold. We don't need one. I felt my stomach drop. That wasn't a cop doing a welfare check. That was a crew. Ryder snapped his fingers at a monitor. Got it. Her building uses electronic access panels. I can lock the stairwell doors and elevator at the lobby level. Trap them on her floor. Do it, I said. Ryder typed fast. Somewhere across town, a security system obeyed a man it had never met. In Daphne's audio, a faint beep sounded, then an angry thump. What the man muttered. A second voice, rougher. Forget the building. Get the door. Hunter's hand tightened around his keys. We're leaving. 2 minutes to wheels. No hero stuff, I said, stepping in close to him. You grab her and the file. That's it. Hunter's jaw flexed. Copy. I kept Daphne on the line as we moved. My boots hit the mill's concrete floor, then the loading bay ramp, then wet asphalt. Logan drove. Hunter sat passenger. Ryder stayed behind, feeding directions and watching every camera he could hijack. Daphne's breathing stuttered. They're inside. My heart slammed. How? They shattered the glass panel next to the handle. They reached in and, a loud crack. Wood splintering. Then Daphne's voice rose, sharp. Stop. I'm calling. Her words cut off with a gasp, like someone grabbed her arm. Hunter's voice hit my ear. We're 3 blocks out. Through the phone, I heard a man speaking right over her. Miss Pierce, he said, calm as a knife. Hand us the copy and nobody gets hurt. Daphne's voice trembled. I don't know what you mean. The man sighed, like she was wasting his time. You do. A sound, paper sliding, drawers opening. They were tearing her office apart. Ryder's voice came through, urgent. Logan, take the alley by the parking garage. There's a service entrance on the north side. It'll put you closer to her floor. Logan cut the wheel without a word. On the line, Daphne whispered. Mason. If they take it, it's over. It's not over, I said. Listen to me. Where is it? A pause. Then, quietly. Inside the wall clock. Behind the battery panel. I shut my eyes for half a second. Brave. Smart. Then one of the men laughed. Cute. The phone picked up footsteps. Heavy, confident, walking straight toward the clock. Like they already knew. My skin went cold. Hunter's voice turned deadly quiet. They had the location before they entered. That meant one thing. Daphne wasn't the first leak. And suddenly, the threat message from last night made new sense. They weren't just warning us. They were steering us. As Logan's car skidded into the garage entrance, Daphne's phone captured one last sound. Something metallic sliding, like a gun being unholstered. Then Daphne whispered, almost to herself, "Oh no." The moment Daphne whispered, "Oh no," a third voice spoke close to her phone, calm and almost bored. "Move away from the desk, Miss Pierce." Daphne tried to keep her voice steady, but it broke anyway. "I'm not giving you anything." A quick sound, metal shifting, followed by a hard exhale from someone who'd done this before. "You're not listening," the man said. "This isn't a negotiation." In the car, Logan didn't say a word. He just pushed harder, tires squealing as he swung down the garage ramp. Hunter's eyes stayed locked forward, his jaw set like stone. Ryder's voice came through our earpieces, fast and controlled. "I've got their entry path. 2 males, both masked, no marked units outside. They're not official." "Then they're Julian's," I said, and I hated how easy it was to believe that. We hit the service entrance and moved up the stairwell 2 steps at a time. No shouting, no hero talk, just breath, boots, and the thin, rising pressure of being seconds late. Daphne's phone picked up the scrape of a chair and a small, involuntary sob. Someone had shoved her down. Then the man spoke again, closer. "Where's the copy?" Daphne didn't answer. A slap echoed, sharp, loud, more humiliating than damaging, designed to break her pride without leaving a clear mark. I felt my hand tighten around my own phone so hard my fingers hurt. Hunter leaned toward his mic. "Floor 3rd, Ryder answered instantly. "End of the hall. Suite 3C. We reached the 3rd floor landing and slowed, listening. The hallway lights flickered like the building was nervous. A door at the end was half shut, Daphne's office, and the sound of drawers being yanked open came through the crack. Hunter raised one finger. "Wait." He pulled a slim tool from his pocket and slid it under the door gap, then gave Logan a quick look. Logan understood immediately. He stepped to the side of the frame, out of view. Hunter pushed the door open just enough to see in. I saw Daphne on the floor, her hair loose, one hand braced against the carpet like she was trying not to fall apart. 2 men in dark jackets were tearing through the office. One had a handgun down at his side, not pointed yet, but ready. The gunman's head snapped toward the door like he sensed movement. "What was that?" he hissed. Hunter moved. Fast, quiet, clean. He shoved the door wide and hit the nearest man with a hard, short strike, shoulder and forearm, driving him back into the filing cabinet with a crash. Logan surged in right behind him, grabbing the gunman's wrist with both hands and pinning it down toward the floor. The handgun clattered, skidding under the desk. The second man swung wildly, trying to land a punch, but Hunter caught his sleeve and yanked him off balance. The guy slammed into the wall, stunned. I rushed and last, straight to Daphne. "Daphne," I said, low and urgent. "Can you stand?" Her eyes were wide, wet, furious. "They knew," she whispered. "They knew where to look." Logan still had the gunman locked down, forearm across his shoulder, forcing him to stay seated and harmless. Hunter checked the hallway and then looked at me. "We can't stay," he said. "I know," I answered. I helped Daphne up, keeping my body between her and the men. The first attacker coughed and tried to laugh like this was funny. "You're too late," he said, voice rough. "It's already moving." "Who sent you?" I asked. He grinned through the pain. "You already know." Hunter grabbed the wall clock, popped the battery panel in one practiced motion, and froze. "Empty," he said. Daphne's face drained. "No, I put it there tonight." Ryder's voice came through again, tense now. Multiple units just rolled near the building, unmarked SUVs. "They're not responding to normal dispatch tags." Logan looked at the gunman. "Decoy team," he said. My chest tightened as the truth landed, clean and brutal. This wasn't just an attempt to steal evidence. This was a timer, meant to drag us out into the open while something bigger moved somewhere else. Daphne gripped my sleeve. "They're taking it to the docks," she said, voice shaking. "Evan told me." "The docks," he said. "The proof gets shipped out." Outside, distant sirens rose. Too many, too coordinated, like a net tightening. Hunter's eyes met mine. "Do we run?" he asked. "Or do we intercept?" I looked at Daphne, then at the empty clock, then at the dark hallway where footsteps were starting to echo. And I realized the next decision would either save the truth or bury it forever. "We intercept," I said, and my voice sounded calmer than I felt. Hunter didn't argue. He just nodded once like the answer had already been decided. Logan moved first, scooping up the dropped handgun with a cloth, clearing it, then sliding it into an evidence bag like he was sealing a problem shut. Ryder's voice cracked in our earpieces, quick and sharp. 2 SUVs just turned onto the block. You've got maybe 40 seconds before the hallway fills. Daphne grabbed her coat with shaking hands. Her eyes weren't just scared. She was angry, like fear had burned into something harder. They're not leaving witnesses, she said. Then we don't give them one, I replied, pulling her toward the stairwell. We moved fast, but quiet. No yelling, no running in the hall. Just controlled speed, because panicked people get noticed. Hunter took point, Logan behind him, me in the middle with Daphne, and the last man dragging behind us. One of the attackers, zip-tied with his own belt and shoved forward like a warning sign. At the stairwell door, Hunter paused, listening. Nothing. We went down 2 floors, then cut through a service corridor Ryder had mapped from the building's maintenance plans. The exit dumped us into a narrow alley that smelled like wet concrete and old trash, the kind of place the city forgets. Logan pushed the zip-tied man against the wall, forearm pinning him. Talk, Logan said. Who took the copy? The man's laugh was thin and nervous now. You're chasing smoke. Hunter leaned in close, voice low. Smoke comes from fire. Where's the fire? The man's eyes flicked toward the street. Docks, he said finally. That's all I know. They said the docks. Which dock? I asked. He hesitated just long enough to admit he knew more. Logan shifted his grip slightly. No brutality, just pressure, just certainty. The man's voice broke. Pier 9. Midnight move. That's what I heard. I swear. Ryder cut in. Pier 9 is real. Private shipping lane. Minimal cameras. But I can get you eyes if you're within range. I shoved the attacker toward the alley's far end. Go, I said. If you're lying, you won't get a second chance. He didn't wait to test whether I meant it. He ran. Daphne stared at me. You just let him go? I'm not here to collect bodies, I said. I'm here to collect truth. Logan opened the passenger door of our vehicle. Daphne climbed in, still shaking. Hunter slid behind the wheel. I sat in the back, leaning forward between the seats, watching the city lights blur as we drove. Daphne swallowed hard. Evan, your son, he wasn't just filming a drug deal, she said. He said it was evidence leaving custody. Like the police were shipping proof out of town. That sealed order, I muttered. That's how they made it legal. Hunter's eyes stayed on the road. And Pier 9 is where they make it disappear. Ryder's voice came through again. I'm patching into river traffic cams. One feed is shaky, but it's enough. You'll have a live view when you're 2 blocks out. The closer we got to the docks, the quieter the city felt. Streetlights thinned out. Buildings turned into warehouses. The air smelled like river water and diesel. Hunter killed the headlights a block early and rolled us into a dark pull-off behind stacked shipping containers. Stay low, he said. We got out and moved on foot, using the containers for cover. No dramatic speeches. No cinematic hero walk. Just the sound of rain tapping metal and the distant clank of chains. Ryder's feed came through on Hunter's phone, grainy, but clear enough. A line of unmarked SUVs had already arrived. Men in dark jackets were unloading a sealed crate onto a forklift. No logos. No paperwork visible. Logan whispered, "That crate's too protected to be drugs." Hunter nodded toward the far end. "Look." A familiar figure stepped into the light near the warehouse door. Julian. Even from a distance, he carried himself like he owned the air around him. He wasn't in uniform, but he didn't need it. 2 men flanked him like bodyguards. Julian checked his watch, then gestured sharply. The forklift started moving. My stomach twisted. "He's here personally," I whispered. "That means it's sensitive." Daphne's voice came soft behind me. "That means it's proof." A second car pulled up. Older, expensive, driven like the driver expected gates to open. The back door opened and a tall man stepped out with an umbrella, moving slow, confident, untouchable. Quentin, even in the rain, even under dock lights, he looked like a man who'd never been told no in his life. Logan's head snapped toward me. That's him. I couldn't look away. Yeah. Quentin walked straight to Julian, and Julian's posture changed, smaller, careful. They spoke too low for us to hear, but Quentin pointed at the crate like he was pointing at a problem that needed to vanish. Julian nodded. Then Quentin turned, glancing out across the dark yard, and his eyes landed in our direction. Not on our faces, not on our exact spot, but too close, like he felt something watching. Hunter tensed, ready to pull us back. And Quentin lifted his phone to his ear, smiling faintly as he spoke one short sentence. Whatever he said made Julian look up fast, straight toward the containers where we were hiding. Julian's head snapped toward our containers like he'd felt the heat of my stare through steel and rain. Hunter didn't wait for me to react. He pressed 2 fingers into my shoulder, a silent command to drop lower. Logan shifted to my left, blocking Daphne without making it obvious, his body turning into a shield. Stay still, Hunter breathed, so quiet it was more thought than sound. My pulse hammered in my ears, but I forced my hands to unclench, because shaking hands get people killed. Across the yard, Quentin stood under his umbrella like the rain was something that happened to other people. He said something into his phone and smiled again, small, controlled, like he was watching a trap close. Julian lifted his hand, and 2 of his men immediately spread out, scanning the container rows. Ryder's voice hit my earpiece, tight. They know you're there. I'm pulling every camera I can, but the dockyard has blind spots. They don't know who. I whispered. They just know something's off. A flashlight beam cut through the rain, sliding across metal like a slow blade. One of Julian's men walked closer, boots splashing in shallow puddles, his light bouncing from container to container. Another man peeled toward the forklift, guarding the crate like it had a heartbeat. Daphne's breath caught beside me. That's the crate, she mouthed, eyes fixed on the sealed box strapped to the forklift pallet. I saw the item code on the document, same format. Hunter leaned toward me, barely moving his lips. We don't fight a yard full of armed men. We take something small that breaks something big. I stared at Quentin and Julian talking near the warehouse door. If I could hear them, I could end them. Publicly, legally, permanently. Not with a bullet, but with the truth they couldn't outrun. Ryder, I whispered, I need audio. I don't care if it's ugly. Just get me words. I can't get their phones, Ryder said, voice fast. But I can boost Hunter's bedroom bug feed style, if you get closer with a mic. Hunter, do you have the laser? Hunter's fingers slid into his pocket and came out with a slim pen-like device. Give me glass, he murmured. There was a small office window on the warehouse wall, dirty, rain-streaked, but still glass. Hunter pointed with his chin, then moved. Not rushing, not crouch-walking like a movie, just slipping between containers at the exact pace the flashlight beam drifted away. Logan stayed with me and Daphne. His eyes tracked the guards, counting steps, angles, exits. I recognized that look. He wasn't watching people, he was watching patterns. A guard came within 10 feet of us. His flashlight beam hit the container edge and paused, like he'd seen a shadow that didn't belong. Anything. Julian called, impatient. Just rats and rain. The guard answered, but his voice didn't sound convinced. He took one more step closer, and I could see water dripping from his hood. If he rounded the corner, he'd see Daphne's pale face first. I reached down slowly and picked up a loose pebble from the wet ground. Logan's eyes flicked to my hand, warning. I held his gaze for half a second, then tossed the pebble the other way, not far, just enough. It pinged off metal, sharp and clean. The guard snapped his flashlight toward the sound and took the bait, stepping away from our corner. Logan didn't praise me. He just exhaled once, like, fine, keep it controlled. Ryder's voice returned, urgent. Hunter's mic is live. I'm boosting it now. A new audio feed hissed into my ear. faint at first, then clearer. Quentin's voice came through, low and certain. "This ends tonight," Quentin said. Julian answered, softer than I'd ever heard him. "It will. The copy's already being moved with the rest." Quentin made a sound like disappointment. "And the attorney?" Julian's breath tightened. "Handled. She's frightened. She'll learn to be quiet." My stomach turned, not because it was violent, because it was casual. Like hurting people was just maintenance to them. Quentin spoke again, colder. "Mason Cross is the only loose end that matters. I want him neutralized without noise." Julian hesitated, just a fraction. "Then, he'll come for the truth. So we'll give him something else to chase." A chill ran up my neck. That sounded like a plan already in motion. Then Quentin said the line that made Daphne's hand clamp around my arm. "Bring Lila. Put her where he can see her." My lungs forgot how to work for a second. Logan's eyes hardened like he'd just heard a hostage order. Julian replied, almost gentle, "She doesn't know everything. She knows enough," Quentin said. "And she's obedient when she's afraid." Headlights swept across the yard. A car rolled in, slow, deliberate, like it had permission to be there. It stopped near the warehouse door, and the driver's door opened. Lila stepped out into the rain. No umbrella, no coat buttoned, eyes wide like she'd been pulled from bed and told the world was ending. Julian walked toward her immediately, one hand guiding her forward like she was fragile and owned. Daphne whispered, horrified, "They're using her." Logan murmured, "They're baiting you." And the worst part was how my body reacted before my mind could stop it. One step forward, like a leash tightening around my throat. Lila lifted her face, scanning the containers like she could feel me there, and her lips parted as if she was about to say my name. Then Julian leaned in and whispered something into her ear. Lila's shoulders collapsed, and she started walking, straight toward the container row where we were hiding. Lila was 10 feet away. She looked like a ghost walking through the rain, pale, shivering, her eyes locked on the darkness where I crouched. She didn't know I was there, but she felt it. That was the bond of 20 years of marriage, even broken once. Julian stood back near the warehouse, watching her like a scientist watching a rat in a maze. He wanted me to break cover. He wanted the grieving father to run out and save the ex-wife so his snipers could end the threat. "Mason," Lila whispered. It wasn't a call for help. It was an apology. I didn't step out. I didn't run. I pressed my hand to my earpiece. "Ryder." "Now." "Broadcasting," Ryder said. Suddenly, a sound tore through the quiet dockyard, screeching feedback from the warehouse PA system, followed by a voice that boomed off the shipping containers like the voice of God. It wasn't my voice. It was Quentin's. "Mason Cross is the only loose end that matters. I want him neutralized without noise." Quentin froze under his umbrella. His head snapped up, searching for the speakers. Then Julian's voice thundered across the yard, magnified for every guard, every dock worker, and every man to hear. "He'll come for the truth. So we'll give him something else to chase." Lila stopped walking. She looked back at Julian, her face twisting in confusion, then horror. The man she had trusted, the man who held her hand at our son's funeral, was hearing his own conspiracy broadcast to the world. Julian's face went white. He drew his weapon, spinning in a circle. "Cut it. Cut the power." But Ryder wasn't done. "Bring Lila. Put her where he can see her." That line hit the air like a physical blow. Lila let out a sound that wasn't quite a scream. It was the sound of her world shattering. She crumpled to her knees in the mud. "Now," I said to Hunter. We moved. Hunter and Logan broke from the shadows like wolves. They didn't shoot to kill. They shot to dismantle. 2 precise shots took out the spotlights, plunging the yard into semi-darkness. A third shot hit the tire of Quentin's car, dropping the luxury sedan onto its rim. I walked out into the open. I didn't run. I walked straight toward Julian. "It's over, Julian," I shouted. My voice didn't need a microphone. Julian swung his gun toward me. His hand was shaking. "You ruined it. You ruined everything." "I didn't ruin it," I said, stepping past Lila. placing myself between her and him. I just turned on the lights. Sirens wailed in the distance, real ones this time. State troopers. The FBI. Daphne had made the call. The second rider confirmed we had the audio. "I am the captain," Julian screamed, backing up toward the warehouse door. "I run this city." "Not anymore," I said. He raised the gun higher, aiming for my chest. He was going to do it. He had nothing left to lose. Crack. A single shot rang out, but it didn't come from Julian. Julian's gun flew out of his hand, spinning across the wet asphalt. He gripped his wrist, howling in pain, dropping to his knees. I looked up. Hunter was perched on top of a container 40 yards away, his rifle smoking in the rain. He gave me a small, grim nod. I walked up to Julian. He was sobbing now, cradling his shattered hand. The arrogant smirk from the morgue was gone. The polished uniform was covered in mud. He looked small. 13 times, I whispered, standing over him. "That's how many times my son was hit. You're lucky I'm letting you live to sit in a cell." Quentin tried to slip away toward the warehouse shadows, closing his umbrella like it made him invisible. Logan stepped out of the dark, blocking his path. He didn't say a word. He just crossed his arms. Quentin stopped. The untouchable judge looked at me, then at the flashing lights swarming the gate. He straightened his tie, trying to cling to a dignity that was already dead. "I can make a deal," Quentin said, his voice trembling. "I know people." "I can." "You don't have people," I said. "You have co-conspirators, and they're all going to trade you for a lighter sentence." The gates burst open. Federal agents swarmed the lot, weapons drawn. They didn't aim at me. They had the audio. They had the video Daphne sent. I felt a hand on my arm. Lila. She was soaked, her makeup running, her eyes hollow. She looked at Julian, bleeding on the ground, then at her father, who was being handcuffed against a forklift. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Mason, I swear. I didn't know they killed him on purpose." I looked at her. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to scream at her for trusting them over me. But all I felt was a heavy, exhausting sadness. "You knew enough to take the money, Lila," I said softly. She flinched like I had slapped her. She let go of my arm and stepped back, covering her mouth as the reality of her silence crashed down on her. She wouldn't go to jail, maybe, but she would live in a prison of her own, making for the rest of her life. I turned away from her. I walked past the feds, past the crime scene tape, past the wreckage of my old life. Hunter, Logan, and Ryder were waiting by the truck. No high fives. No celebration. Just the quiet acknowledgement of a debt paid. "We good, boss?" Hunter asked, stowing his gear. I looked back one last time at the chaos, the flashing lights reflecting off the wet pavement. I thought about the smile in the morgue. It was gone. I thought about Evan. He wasn't coming back, but his name was clean. The lie was dead. "We're good," I said. I got in the truck. I didn't look back. The aftermath, I didn't wait a year to visit him. I went the next morning. The sun was coming up over the cemetery, burning off the mist. It was quiet. The kind of quiet you earn. I placed the newspaper on the grass next to his headstone. The headline was bold. "Judge and captain indicted in evidence ring. Teenage victim exonerated." "They know the truth now, kid," I said. I sat there for a long time, watching the light touch the letters of his name. I didn't feel happy. You don't get happy after something like this. But I felt light. The weight of the anger was gone, replaced by the memory of who he was, not how he died. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Hunter. "New contract. Extraction job. You in?" I looked at the stone. I touched the cold marble one last time. "Rest easy, Evan," I whispered. I stood up, dusted off my jeans, and typed a single word back. "Ready." I walked back to the truck, the engine starting with a roar that sounded like life beginning again. Thank you so much for reading this story with me.